However, the evidence on the languages spoken by the residents of the chiefdom of Cafetachecu, while far from problem-summative, points most directly to Catawban rather than Muscovian roots. And you can check, that's in roots forthcoming. The back of the handout has a whole lot of references, and I'll occasionally refer to those references. So that issue is discussed in the roots forthcoming. Okay, taking another look, before we get to Tainoâ stuff. Part of the problem with identifying the linguistic affiliation of Cusabo has been the fragmentary evidence, consisting principally of place names, that is available for analysis. However, a second major problem appears to have been the unwillingness of prior researchers to leave the mainland of North America and to look elsewhere for connections. While the data are too scanty for any firm conclusions to be drawn, a comparison of Cusabo place names with Caribbean languages at least raises the possibility that Cusabo was related to Tainoâ, the language aboriginally spoken in the Bahamas, Barbados, Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and Santo Domingo. The map on page 2, the pretty colored map, shows both the northern fringe of the Tainoâ-speaking area, Cuba and the Bahamas, and the Cusabo territory around Charleston. The Charleston area is not the closest point of land on the mainland to the Tainoâ-speaking islands. However, note that if you look at the arrows, there's a map that's showing early Spanish explorations of the southeast. And the very earliest ones are the two arrows that are coming out from Hispaniola and curving up the side of Florida and going to Charleston. And the lowest one is the voyages of Iglesias and Gordillo, who were two sea captains who, one was searching for a site for a Spanish colony, and the other one was a slave raider. And they went up together in 1521 and landed around Winyaw Bay, and both found the site and found slaves. And then they returned, and then after that, in 1526, Tainoâ, an adjudicator for the Spanish Hispaniola, sailed up to establish a colony. Anyway, what the map is showing is that the currents along the Canal de Bahamas flow northward along the coast of Florida to the South Carolina shoreline. Thus, South Carolina may represent the end point of the path of least resistance for seafarers traveling northward from the greater Antilles to the main. So in other words, the seafarers don't always believe in Euclidean geometry. The shortest distance between 2 points is not always a straight line. It's wherever the currents of winds come. And so that's how they may have ended up on Charleston rather than someplace else. Okay, moving along to the data. Comparisons between Cusabo and Tainoâ are hindered not only by the paucity of Cusabo data, but also by a similar but by no means as severe lack of Tainoâ data. Furthermore, as Douglas Taylor, 1977, demonstrated, the Tainoâ data are often difficult to interpret. In carrying out my analysis, I used two sources for Tainoâ, Frederici, 1960, and Taylor, 1970. There's a whole bunch of things. If you go on the internet and type in Tainoâ language, you'll come up with some really off-the-wall sources for Tainoâ, and you have to ignore them. And these are the two best sources for Tainoâ data. The Taylor 1977 demonstrated that Tainoâ was most similar to Island Carib, an Arawakan language with heavy influence from the Carib language. I've therefore also used the Island Carib and Arawak data in Taylor's work, as well as some data from Karina, or True Carib, in searching for Cusabo etymologies. A particular problematic feature of using data from Island Carib and Arawak is the disjuncture between the phonemic system of these languages and the phonemic system of Spanish. Among other differences, Island Carib and Arawak possess a back unrounded vowel phoneme that is transcribed O in Island Carib and in Arawak. And it's basically bar. It has no equivalent in Spanish or French, and generally speaking in English. While there's insufficient Tainoâ or Cusabo data to reconstitute the phonemic systems of these languages, circumstantial evidence from the alternating spellings for place names, for example, in Cusabo you get Uskamaku and Eskamaku, spellings with both the back and the front vowel, that suggests that Cusabo languages may well have possessed a back and rounded vowel as well. Anyway, moving on to shared bits. We now go to the third page of the handout. There are at least 2 recurrent morphological markers, potential morphological markers, which are shown in the first section E on the handout. If you look at the lettering, I have no idea what happens to sections C and D, or why there are 2 E's. And I did not want to do the alphabet as A, B, E, E, G, S, but this is how it came out, so we'll live with it. Anyway, there's 2 more things that are suggestive of relationship. There is this locative suffix that we talked about previously, the bo, bu, which occurs on pairs like Cusa, which is a town name, Cusabo, which is a river name, Si, which is a town name, Siwi Bo, which is a river name, and Westo, Westobu, which is a tribal name. Westo is a tribal name, and Westobu. We actually have a translation of that meaning the enemy's river. And in Island Carib, there's a suffix bu, meaning at. And it may be the case that bu had the meaning river in Cusabo, but we know there's other place names in the Cusabo area that have the ending bu-bo that are not rivers and are not streams. There are some that are plantations. Well, there's a village name, Abandabu. There are place names like Waku and plantations like Korabu and Tuscaloosa. So it's not clear that that was a river name when Swan implied that it may well have been a general locative suffix, just as it is in Island Carib. There's also the pluralizing morpheme. When Taylor identified this morpheme, which also occurs in Island Carib, in the name Tainoâ itself, which he derived from Tai, a high-ranking lineage, plus no as a plural suffix. And in Cusabo, it appears that this occurs in Ipuano, which looks to come from Boano, which is the Tainoâ word. Bawa is the Tainoâ word for sea, so it would mean sea people, if it was a Tainoâ word. But that's a Cusabo word. And also in Stono, which looks like it comes from the Stono Regusta people. And in the back of the handout, it gives you the whole synonyms for all these, which shows better why one would take that to be the Regusta people. That Ista in Istano, which also shows up in the name of Edisto, which appears to come from Avista, the Ista town. The word for town in Arawak, Arawak is Alda.